So I'm Dr. Ashi, and I'm joined today by Julia.
Yes, my name is Julia Giacomin. I'm currently a second year PsyD student at Adler University in Chicago. I'm also a diagnostic extern here at CORE, Center of Relational Empowerment. Um, I think that's it for my
Yeah.
spiel. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're gonna be a clinical psychologist.
Yes.
I wanted to make a video about Gottman therapy, and this is something that comes up all the time with my clients. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna explain a little bit about Gottman therapy, and then we're gonna do some role plays so that people can see what it looks like and how to use the Gottman therapy method to adjust their communication. Julie and John Gottman are psychologists, and what they've done is they developed a couples therapy, which is based off of decades of research. They looked at couples, they observed them, and they got a bunch of data around how they behaved and how they talked to each other, and they organized all this information into what works and what doesn't work. And they found that there's certain patterns of communication that can predict divorce rates like with a very high accuracy rate. So what Julie and John Gottman came up with are the Four Horsemen of Communication. So the Four Horsemen are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. What criticism is it's a you statement. You're typically saying to the other person, you're doing this thing. And so it's often blaming or accusing the person of being a certain way, and it's often generalizing. One aspect of something being generalizing is using extreme language, like always and never.
Like people who tend to be pretty avoidant of problems will say
Mm,
like, I can't deal with this right now. Like, you're too needy. I can't deal with the drama. Or
mm,
someone who like is kind of like more anxious about like time that you spend together might say like, will you always choose work or your friends over me? Like I don't even feel like a priority anymore.
So those are really good examples. So I think what I heard there is the you statement, right? It might be true that sometimes the person does prioritize their friends over the relationship, and there's room for improvement there. But when you say you always choose your friends, that's probably not true. So the next one is contempt. Contempt is the worst version of the Four Horsemen. And this is the one that predicts divorce rates with over 90%. What contempt is what it sounds like. So it's disrespecting your partner, it's having disgust for them, and it's putting them down. So that's maybe showing your feeling that you're superior to your partner or trying to humiliate them. One of the nonverbal cues of disgust is eye rolling. Julie and John Gottman found in their research that just eye rolling alone was a predictor of future divorce. Other forms of contempt are sarcasm, uh, and just insults, just blatant insults.
When thinking about like texting and stuff being like a big component with communication, like
Mm,
when someone sends just like K or got it or an
mm,
emoji that uses like the eye roll or like the sigh emoji or
mm,
just like a
mm.
whatever,
Something I've seen with couples, which is sad to watch, is really just putting down the partner, being like, you're just so stupid.
like the cheap
Or
shots.
yeah, cheap shots, or just saying, you're just a shitty person. Like you're just like a bad human being. You just don't care about other people. You don't care about me because you're selfish.
Mhm.
Those are things that I see. And as you might imagine, doesn't tend to go well with those couples. Okay, so the next one is defensiveness. And so defensiveness is just what it sounds like to you. It's dismissing the other person. It's avoiding what they're saying or not acknowledging the other person's point of view. A big indicator of defensiveness is when people will say but or yes, but they're not really acknowledging the point of view of the other person. They're immediately going into a counter argument. That's not helpful at all for the conversation.
I think this one might be like the most common or easy for me to
Mm,
conceptualize.
yeah.
But like some examples could be like I can't help it. School is super demanding, or my job is so demanding, and you know that, so like you should understand that. Or I'm just going out with my friends. Don't overthink it. You're being dramatic. or
hmm hmm
I can't help it. I sometimes need space from you because you're too
hmm
clingy, and that's why we fight. Like
Yeah,
putting it all on that person, even though it
yeah,
takes tango.
there's a wide spectrum here. So defensiveness could just be like, well, I'm just too tired, right? That's like one form of defensiveness, and it might even be true, but it's not acknowledging the point the other person's making. And then on the other side of it is just completely like shutting down the person, saying that's not true. What you're saying, your reality is not real at all. And then that can get into abuse with gaslighting and stuff. The last horseman is stonewalling. And this is basically just when you shut down emotionally and you stop engaging with the person. You kind of see the mile long stare come on, right? The dissociation and just not responding. Or it can be, fuck it, I'm out and just leaving and slamming the door. That's stonewalling.
Yeah. Or like the fine, do it, whatever. I don't
Mm.
care.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dismissing it.
Yeah, I think whatever. When people
Yeah.
say, yeah, you know what, whatever. That's stonewalling because you're just saying, you know what, I'm done. Okay, so those are the four horsemen. It's criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. For anybody watching this, I think something to consider is do you see any of these in yourself? Do you see it in your relationships? And again, this doesn't have to be romantic. It can be with family, friends, professional relationships. It can even be with strangers. I can see this come, I'm sure we've seen this come up with people working with staff at the airport or something, or at restaurants with servers.
Mhm.
This can come in any way, and I think it's one of the downsides of Gottman is that it's so focused on couples when I use it all the time with families and individuals with their friends.
Right. It's like it's at the crux of conflict in whatever
Mhm.
capacity that is.
Another thing I think is really interesting is the cultural factors here. Something I've asked myself is why do we use these four horsemen so much? And is this something that is more prominent in the United States or in Western culture? But I've worked with couples that are from other parts of the world, from the Middle East or in Asia and India, and they're using them. So yeah, I don't know why. And when they stop using them, it works really well. So now we're going to get into the antidotes to the Four Horsemen. And so this is what you do instead. The antidote to criticism is complaint. And what complaint means is that you're talking first about how something makes you feel, and you're noting something that's specific that's bothering you, and then looking for a solution from a team-oriented approach. And so rather than saying you or I, you say we. And that can be really helpful for bringing the other person's defensiveness down. The example you used is you're out with your friends and the person feels like left out or something, right? Or neglected in the relationship, right?
Yes. Like you choose work or your friends. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that right, right. So how would you say that using the complaint?
I feel like you spend a lot of time at work or with your friends. I think we should prioritize spending more time together.
hmm Yeah, so that's a good start, right? Because you're talking about how you feel, right? Instead of saying you do this. So I think another thing here is leaning into the emotion, right? What is the emotion that you feel? So you might say, I feel sad, and neglected because you've been spending a lot of time with your friends and focused on work lately.
Yeah.
And I know how much you care about work and friends, and I also feel really lonely. And so is there anything we can do to spend more time together?
Mhm. Perfect.
So how did you feel hearing me say that version of it?
Like that's a totally reasonable request, and that
Mhm.
like because the emotion ties in it, it's one obviously like more genuine than just like a well you do this and makes it feel more human.
Yeah, and I think it's hard because it's vulnerable, right? So
Mhm.
I had to admit that I'm feel sad
And
and
lonely.
lonely.
Yeah.
And that's
Great
hard,
combo.
right?
Yeah.
Sad, lonely, neglected. And you also have to narrow it down and really be specific about why, right? So I said you've been spending a lot of time with your friends and doing work lately. And that's probably true. And that's different from saying you never spend time with me. You don't care about me. but it involves taking that step of thinking about how you feel and why you feel that way, and then taking a collaborative approach of saying, what can we do about this rather than you need to solve this problem.
Yeah, I think that last part's really key because it opens up the conversation for a solution and like co the collaborative nature of like remedying that
Yeah.
instead of being like, well, we should do this. And it's
Mhm.
just like, well, how is this actually feasible and attainable for both of us?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so complaint, and again, that's I feel this emotion. This is why I feel it. It's specific. And what can we do about it together? That is the antidote to criticism.
Hmm.
So the next one is contempt. This one's hard because if you feel contempt for your partner, the question is how do you stop feeling disgust, right, and superior? And once you're at that point, how do you get past that? And so the antidote is appreciation and respect. And that means just trying to remember positive things about your partner, remembering that they're a human and humanizing them before you make the statement. Think about the reasons they're doing what they're doing from a positive perspective. So I might say, hey, I really appreciate how much your friends and work mean to you. And that's part of the reason I love you so much is because you're a loyal person and you're passionate. And
Hmm.
I'm also feeling sad and lonely because you've been spending a lot of time with your friends.
Yeah. Or like I admire your work ethic and I
Hmm.
think it's awesome that you're so motivated.
Hmm.
But conversely, like I also am left feeling this way.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's the antidote to contempt is humanizing the other person, finding the positive qualities about them and thinking about it and then voicing it to the other person. But we've gone from you're such a selfish person to I really appreciate how much you care about your friends. So yeah, if you do that, then that's the antidote. For defensiveness, the antidote is taking responsibility. It's pretty simple. It just means something that I think of is the 1% rule. And so what this means is that even if your partner is 99% wrong with what they're saying, find the 1% that they're right and acknowledge that first. But a lot of people really struggle with finding a way in which the other person's right because they're criticizing them and they're showing contempt. And it's really hard to not be defensive during that time. And yet it works if you find that 1% that you can take responsibility for, it can make a really big difference. The antidote to stonewalling is self-soothing. And what that means is giving yourself a second, a timeout to give yourself some space to calm down. The key here is that you're being intentional about it and you're communicating it. So if you're feeling just shut down and like you just can't respond and you're feeling overwhelmed, if you say, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm gonna go take a walk for 20 minutes and then we're gonna come back and let's continue this, that's self-soothing. And that's different from just saying I'm out and then just go slam the door, drive away and ghost for the rest of the day, right?
Yeah. It's pressing pause.
Yeah, pressing pause, but also doing it together, acknowledging the pause.
Yeah.
It's not rage quitting, it's saying,
Yeah.
let's take a break.
Cool off for a sec. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, so what we're gonna do is show examples first of the Four Horsemen and why it doesn't work. Hey, what's up?
Hi. Remember those dishes that I told you to do this morning before you left for work?
No.
Well, I told you this morning before you left for work to do them because, I do them every freaking day. And tonight's my one night that I get to go out with my friends. I'm running late to go meet them, and I noticed that the dishes still weren't done. Like, this is one thing that I just asked you to do today.
Well, if it was such a big deal to you that I got them done, then maybe you should have reminded me.
I shouldn't have to remind you. Like, I'm not your mom. Like, you should know. I told you this morning. Like, what more of a reminder do you need? Like, text throughout the day,
Well,
every hour of the day?
I don't see why it's that big a deal. Like you can just leave them and just go out with your friends and it's not a big deal.
It's because you never clean. Every time I come home, the dishes are in the sink and it's just like expected that I'm gonna do it. Like you're just so inconsiderate.
I mean, I clean the bathroom.
Okay, gold star for you. You do one thing. What about all the other things
But
that I
what about you? You're kind of a mean person.
do? Right. I'm mean. I'm mean.
I mean, you're yelling at me right now. You're just
This
being a
isn't
rude.
yelling. This is not yelling. I can get there though. I just feel like I'm embarrassed to bring my friends to our house after drinks because the dishes aren't done, and I don't want them to see that I'm dating a loser. Like a loser who doesn't appreciate all that I do in the relationship and doesn't do one thing that I ask them to do.
All right, you know what? Fuck this. I'm not gonna talk to you and you're like this.
No, no, we got to figure this out now. Like you can't just shut down again.
Hey, what's up?
Hi. I'm getting ready to leave for my dinner with my friends that I told you about this morning and how I asked you to do the dishes. So I didn't have to do them before I left because I do them all the time and they're still not done. So what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, you're right. I forgot to do it.
Okay, well, it's just like you never clean. Like I shouldn't have to remind you.
Yeah, I know it's frustrating because I remember you're gonna go out with your friends and now you feel like you have to clean it because I know that's what you're like. And I did say I'd do it. I'm sorry.
Okay, well,
How did you feel this time with my response?
there's definitely like a noticeable shift, especially when it's like the taking accountability of it. It's like, oh, well, like you want, like instinctively when you're already like elevated with the criticism, like you're ready to go with the next jab. But then as soon as someone
Hmm.
takes accountability, you're like, oh, well, now I just look like really mean if I just like keep digging it. So it does
Yeah.
make the other person stop and reflect for a sec.
Yeah, and I think you're right that when I get defensive, it was so easy for you to then pop in with an insult.
It fuels it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it fuels it. It's like pouring gasoline on a fire, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas what I did, right, when I take responsibility, it's like pouring a blanket on a fire where it just extinguishes it. And I could see you pause because you were trying to think of how to be mean, but it just felt unnatural.
Yeah. Hey, what's up?
Hey, um, so I just got home and I'm feeling pretty frustrated. Um, just because I saw that the dishes are still in the sink and we had talked about how you were gonna get to them.
Mhm.
I really appreciate all the work you do around the house already. And at the same time, I'm just busy tonight. I had to leave, and so I just felt really frustrated to see that the dishes weren't done. Is there anything we can do about this moving forward?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry to hear that you're frustrated. I didn't even think. I honestly forgot until you just reminded me and like that's not okay either. And um I really should just like write it down in my to-do list once like you tell me something like that. So that's my bad for not checking that one off. I knew I was supposed to do that, so I'm sorry.
I appreciate it, and if we want to make a to-do list together, then I'm down to do that. We could find something and maybe put it on the wall or something.
Yeah, like on the fridge and then note like who's doing what.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
But yeah, yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm feeling pretty frustrated still, so I think it's probably better if we just catch up about this later tonight.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, we
and
can
then
talk
yeah.
later. Cool.
So how is that? How did that feel for you?
Like a lot more productive of a conversation. Like especially even the time like spent, like the arguing just like takes so much more time.
Yeah, so in that case, everything that you had felt before, the frustration and the annoyance, feeling like you were being dismissed in the relationship and all of that, I was still able to communicate all of that,
Hmm.
and we were able to get to a solution together as a couple.
Yeah.
Did you feel defensive?
No, because the way that like the bringing up the complaint works, like makes the other person feel like, oh no, like I think the first thing I said was, I'm so sorry to hear that you're frustrated because like you don't
Hmm.
want somebody to be like upset. And like when you do care about that person, it's like that's the part that's like the gut punch,
Hmm.
not so much the criticism or like behavior change that they're proposing.
Yeah. How did you feel about the self-soothing? So I kind of put that in at the end there, that I was frustrated still and didn't really want to talk more. How did that come across to you?
I think it was like just natural flow, like sometimes it's like some things are better left like when you digest it and say it later. And I think
Mm.
it was received like, okay, yes, I heard, we'll talk about it later. And like it's definitive, not just like I'm done. And it's like one person deciding. Like you got the confirmation that I was like, yep.
Yeah, it's a lot different from the you just see the
Uh,
phone thing go
Hang
off.
up.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's an example of the goal in couples therapy, to get people from what we were doing at first, which was just chaotic and mean,
Yeah,
to actually addressing the emotions, right? Showing that vulnerability and connecting as partners. Like we were definitely coming across as more team players during
for
that last
sure.
part.
For sure.
The hardest one, I think, is from the middle that we did, which is when you were doing contempt and then I still had to take responsibility.
Yes.
That one's the hardest. And at the same time, that's where you start, because most people are caught in, usually it's criticism and defensiveness. It's like this back and forth.
Yeah. I think
Uh,
the stonewalling one is a natural escalation for some people where it's like just
mm.
gets too high and then it's just like done. But yeah.
One caveat here that I could see people being concerned about is, what if I'm in an abusive relationship where somebody's contemptuous and critical, and I take responsibility every time and they don't change. They just continue to be contemptuous. I think that's valid. So there's two things. One, most people will respond to taking responsibility and to making complaints and all of the antidotes really, really well. If you're in a relationship where you're taking responsibility, you're doing self-soothing, you're doing all the antidotes, and they're still being contemptuous, I think it's time to evaluate whether this is the relationship you want to be in.
Yeah. It's like the underlying beliefs that are under there that fuel the contempt,
Hmm.
that inability to acknowledge what you're doing if you are doing the antidotes. That speaks
Exactly.
volume.
I've seen couples where they start to use the antidotes and very quickly they shift it. And it's because they really care about each other. They have an underlying respect and love for each other that is the fuel. And you just tweak the language a little bit, it makes a massive difference. And then I've seen couples where they just can't get out of that cycle of contempt, and where one of them takes responsibility, the other person can't give them the benefit of the doubt and just keeps laying into them. And that is what I would describe as an abusive relationship.
Mhm.
On a positive note, though, this stuff does work. And so the science shows from Gottman and many, many couples therapists around the world, that this does work if you start to use it for the most part.
I kind of want to say something along the lines of like, it takes practice, but not practice makes perfect, but like, what's the reframe of that? Practice
Practice makes significantly better.
life outcomes. Yeah.
Yeah. People can get in the habit of doing it. And I honestly, like, I can be really defensive. And I think that's probably the biggest one that most people are doing, especially in the past. I look back at the past where I was just like, I just couldn't get to acknowledging the other person's point of view. But the thing is, it's kind of like when you're learning how to ride a bike. once you just do it and it clicks and you realize you can do it, you don't go back. Like you never unlearn it. If you're doing this with someone who you trust, who is hopefully a family member or a friend or someone you're in a relationship with, this is someone you trust. And so part of this vulnerability is the trust in the other person.
Mm, mhm. Yeah.
All
So good luck.
right. Yeah, so good luck everybody out there. All right, well, thanks. Thanks for the help. And I'll see you in the office in like 5 seconds.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me.